What up? Week 9. We have passed the halfway mark. Chris, can you believe we're already halfway through the NFL season?
No, it's bittersweet. It definitely feels like I need it to be prolonged by at least a couple months or something like that. It's crazy how fast time flies, especially now. I said it with kids. You have kids too. Like time goes by so quick, but now I'm gauging things by football seasons, and they're flying.
And I wish it almost started a little bit later because I need football to get me through winter. I really weird in the winter, especially when you get in the heart of winter. And so as soon as the Super Bowl ends, I'm like, winter needs to end now. The spring needs to come. I wish it was almost a shifted 1 month further. When the weather's nice in the summer, you're excited to get it started, but it's still all the nice weather. I want football to take me through winter, man.
There you go. When you get a Super Bowl in March, and you can open it up to different venues, so it's not the same cities all the time too.
True. But I guess the 2022 starts The Rock's XFL, right? Aren't they bringing that back?
He's bringing it back. And I mean, if he's going to be involved, I mean, who knows? He's an ex-collegiate player, so he kind of knows the ins and outs a little bit. I mean, at least he has some kind of background there, and anything that he's got, involved with is going to be over the top. So it should be good. Interested to see if someone can keep it afloat because it's a fun league to watch.
Yeah. But real quick, guys, if you can give us your name on here so we know, give access to Facebook so that we can see who you are. Hitman figured it out. There we go. Maybe if you guys get on YouTube to watch, it'll give your name. If you're on Facebook, I don't know how you give access, but
I don't know either. If anybody can figure that out, type it in the chat or something.
Let us know.
I figured out. Listen, I know we're going to do a football show here. We promoted it for football, but if anybody had an opportunity to watch the UFC pay-per-view last night, I'm not going to recap every fight, but holy crap, what a show. It was absolutely unbelievable. Amazing fights went on. I would recommend if there's a chance to go back on YouTube and replay it or do something. There was 2 championship belts up on the line. The first 6 fights ended in knockouts, and then the rest of them were just absolute knockdown, drag out, went to decision, just 2 warriors in there beating the crap out of each other. One of the best pay-per-views I've seen in such a long time. So really, really good. I'd go back and watch that.
Well, we can probably do a full recap on that on our show this week when we do it. You can kind of dive into it a little bit. And I know people were getting excited even about, I saw a bunch of UFC cards pop up last night on sale and trade pages and stuff like that. So it's always cool to see those events. It brings it back, brings excitement into the hobby as well. I mean, it's crazy. It makes sense, but just that correlation between actual live events and the value of cards, which we're going to get into a little bit today with the games. Is there anybody you can get ahead of it? We were right on predicting that Mike White's cards were going to shoot through the roof.
We saw that a mile away.
Nobody saw that. Oh, man, that was crazy.
There's a good slate of games, and I mean, I think there's going to be some games that are pretty, wide blowouts. I think there's going to be a lot of games that are going to be closer than some people might think. So I'm interested in dissecting each of these with you and seeing, from a fantasy perspective, who looks good and who doesn't, and then what our picks are. So maybe we can help some of you guys out. If you take our advice on any of this and you lose, you can't blame us. But if you win, you got to promote us.
I was just going to say, we all will always take credit for the wins. We take no legal liability for the losses. But, we won't take tips if we give you the right advice and you want to send money our way to. No, seriously. I mean, I've been better than worse on my bets for the last 2 years. So they say, what do they say? You have to win 52% of your bets to, so yep. Whatever. We just got to be better than half the field. So
I think we can do that.
Yeah, we're just going to dive into the games. The first one up, it should be the most exciting game of the week, the Raiders and the Giants. Who doesn't want to see that?
Chris, I actually do. I'm going to tell you why real quick is because I just think the emotional aspect of it, I want to see how the Raiders respond. I think, you brought it up on our live show. If you guys hadn't had a chance to be a part of our live show earlier in the week, it is available on all of our streaming platforms for the podcast. But you were talking about Derek Carr and his resolve, and I got a chance to kind of watch that interview with him and how he was talking about, how much at this time his teammate needs him and how it's about lifting each other up and not, letting each other down. And he was questioning himself, were there warning signs? Were there things I could have done? I mean, and that just take Vegas Dave out of the equation because I tended to not like Derek Carr just because of Vegas Dave. But I mean, seeing that, I want to see how he responds. I think he's going to come out. You know how people play an emotional game after they lose a loved one or something like that, and they have Brett Favre had one of the best games of his life after his father passed away. I think Derek Carr is going to come out and put on a show. I really do.
Yeah, and I think people can say, "Oh, he's a phony." I genuinely believe Derek Carr cares about people like he says he does. I mean, he gets emotional talking about the situation. If you've seen the interviews and stuff, it really does, hit him at home. He feels like he can do more for those people. And I mean, he's expressed it on multiple occasions how he's been there for people, and people have shared that he's been there. I think he's going to carry that momentum into the game. I look for Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs to really step up today. I think, Josh Jacobs has been through stuff in his life. Darren Waller has been through, they have a really weird dynamic with the players they have on that team there. They went through the Gruden situation. Real quick, when I go through the line on that game, that line on DraftKings is -3. The Raiders are -3. So they are the favorites in that. The over under at 46.5. And then just looking over on FanDuel to see if it's changed at all, using probably the two most popular sites, same thing, -3, 46.5. So I'm going the Raiders -3 on this. I just think that's going to be a touchdown game there. I think Raiders come out to play. I don't know how I feel about the over or under. If I had to pick one, I'm probably going the over. Do you have any thoughts on either that line or the over under?
Yeah, no, the line, I'd take the Raiders in 3 all day long. I mean, the Giants have just been way too inconsistent for me. And obviously, Saquon's been kind of a thorn in their side. Without having him, I think Daniel Jones has proven when he has Saquon in that lineup, he can be a little bit more reliable. He's got somebody to lean on. Not having Saquon in the lineup is going to hurt him. So I'm absolutely taking the Raiders 3. I'm actually going to take the under on this one. I think emotion may play into it, which can make people perform, but it can also amp people up a little bit. Maybe make some overthrows, some things that take a little bit of time to settle down. I think as much as Carr can throw the ball, I think they have an established run game that they can use to wind down the clock a little bit too. So I would take Raiders -3 and the under on that game for myself.
So we do agree on the Raiders -3. And I'm just gonna mark some bets in here as we do it, so I have them logged in. Maybe we'll put in our agreement. I'll put in the bets we agree on. I'll do a massive parlay here. If we agree on it, we're gonna go with it. All right.
Sounds good.
Next game up is going to be the Buffalo-Jacksonville game. Buffalo with another huge line, covered real late last week on their line with the Dolphins, -14.5 with an over of 48.5. What do you think of that right there?
It's going to be a slaughterhouse. I think I would take Buffalo all day with the 14.5, and I'm taking the over. The one thing that I've watched and learned from Buffalo, seeing them live with you in person and just watching their games, is they do not take their foot off the pedal. They're not going to slow down. They're not going to stop scoring. Any chance that Josh Allen has to get to put the ball in the end zone, he's going to take advantage of it. So I think they might see 40 plus themselves just as a team. So I'm definitely taking Bills plus the over.
Yeah, and the only thing that going in before last week, if this was looking at this, I would have been like, I don't know. I think the Jacksonville could give them a game, but the way Jacksonville played against Seahawks, I have no faith in Jacksonville at all. I just think they're a mess. At this point, it looks like they're almost trying to lose again just so they can get a better draft pick. I'm not sure what's going on there, but they're a mess. I mean, I don't know how long they can sustain with that coach there.
Well, what doesn't make sense is on paper, we always say that, like, you look at the Browns, and we'll talk about them later, but on paper, they've got a decent team. You've got DJ Chark, you've got Laviska Shenault, you've got, James Robinson in the backfield. I mean, they had things in place to be able to be successful, especially in the division they play in. But for some reason, they just haven't been able to put it together.
I mean, I guess I have to agree with you with this when I don't feel real confident about it. I think it could be a 14 game. I mean, this is the line that scares me because I think it could be one of those things where if they get up early, they could pull. I know they activated Davis Webb to the active roster this week. I think part of it's because they might have some COVID issues. I'm not sure. But I could see the Jacksonville covering backdoor late, just putting up some garbage time points. So the line scares me a little bit, but I'll go with the -14.5 too, and probably the over as well, because if Jacksonville does cover that 14.5, they're definitely hitting the over.
Well, I'm banking on Buffalo's covering in the first half of the game. So even if they do slow it down, I think they're going to be up 21-0 maybe by halftime. So that's where I'm putting my money.
All right, next one up, the one we did my game, and yours is the next one up, actually. It's going to be the Vikings against the Ravens. The Vikings are +6 in this game with an over of 50.5, over under 50.5. Go ahead, take it away. This is your game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a homer on this one, but Baltimore's proven coming out after a bye. They're over 80% win, coming out after a bye. They've got something to prove. They got embarrassed by Cincinnati. These 3 games that they have coming up are going to be crucial right before they head into, divisional round playing. So for me, I'm going to take my homer Ravens with the 6 points. It looks like the over-under is at 50.5. I'm going to take the under on that, though. That seems high to me. I think, neither of these teams have been putting up that prolific amount of points, on a week-to-week basis. So for me, I'm going to take Ravens, but the under.
That's funny you say that. I said to my sister today, she had that in there, and I said I'd probably take that out. I'm kind of indifferent about the over and under there, and I'd put it in the under in the Green Bay game. I think that Green Bay under is almost a lock in my opinion, just because I think that we'll get to that later. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the under hits on this or stays very close. I don't feel good about it either way, and I do like Baltimore -6 on that. We agree on that right there, so I'll take you with that. Any fantasy standouts there? I want to talk fantasy real quick because Baltimore's kind of all over the place with the running backs. What's your thoughts there?
So Lamar's going to have a Lamar type day. I could easily see him throwing for 300 yards and running for 100 himself. The one thing that I would keep an eye out for would be Rashad Bateman. He was questionable on paper, but he is going to be playing today. He's proven himself to be a reliable target. Majority of his catches are for first downs, and his yards after catch is pretty impressive as a rookie. So I think he's one of those, under the radar type players that you could find to put in there. I think you're going to see, Marlon Humphreys covering Justin Jefferson one-on-one. I think he's going to have a bounce back game. So you might want to be a little cautious with Justin Jefferson, but of course, then that's going to allow the opportunity for someone like an Adam Thielen to come out, and maybe make some catches there. So, there's nobody, if you've got a solid lineup, I wouldn't, necessarily sit any starters that you've been consistent with all year for anybody in this game. I'd be a little weary of Justin Jefferson. And if you want to just kind of one of those, fly shot at the moon type things, I think Rashad Bateman might have an opportunity to have a really good game.
Do you think as far as like daily fantasy goes, Bateman has like good sleeper potential? Is it that kind of game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna do at the end. We're gonna do use Fantasy Pros for daily fantasy. They have a tool called Lineup Optimizer. You get to pick 2 players you feel really good about, and then they'll fill in the rest with who they feel like could really. They've been very good to me. I mean, they called that Uzuma game a couple weeks ago. Jonathan Taylor this week. So every week they've been pretty much spot on with the guys they fill in. But I'm gonna do is right now that you said that I'm gonna take Bateman and put him in as one of my 2 players that I feel good about.
So. I'll say this, that they're going to key in on Hollywood. As far as the Vikings are concerned, they've allowed the 6th most fantasy points to opposing defenses. So Minnesota has trouble covering, and I think Bateman's going to be one of those guys that can slide through.
Yeah, someone says Hammy Watkins. Dude, that he's active along with Latavius Murray, but I just feel like if Lamar is not in the conversation for MVP, look at the team. They got Sammy Watkins. We're talking about Latavius Murray, Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman. I mean, there's not Hollywood Brown is like that stud there. And I don't know that he'd not even be like a wide receiver 2 on most teams, Yeah. He's the wide receiver 1. I just feel like they have the most limited superstar names of any team in the league, and they're still playing with everyone.
Divisional play is going to separate that MVP race pretty big for everybody concerned. So, I mean, I think, Josh Allen's obviously still up there. Kyler's still up there. Dak's up there. So you got a lot of players. I think when they start playing these divisional rounds and things tighten up is where, the cream's going to rise to the top.
It says Bateman is questionable. He's officially active, right?
He is active.
Rashad Bateman is officially active per Fantasy Pros.
You don't think I consulted my sources before I threw something like that out there? Come on.
I would have been mad if you tell me to pick him as one of my guys. But all right, let's move on to the next game. Let me pull up my sheet here. Next game is going to be, this is an interesting one. The Falcons and the Saints. Saints starting Trevor Siemian. Falcons do not have Calvin Ridley, because he's out with them for an extended period of time with his mental illness situation. Falcons are +6.5. I'm going to tell you straight up, I love the +6.5 with the Falcons there. The coach came out for the Saints and said that he felt like Simeon gave him a better chance to win than Taysom Hill did, which after last year, I mean, they paid Taysom. I don't really get what's going on with all that, but the over and under at 42.5, Atlanta +6.5. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this game, this is almost a pick'em game for me because there's 2 sides of the coin, right? Losing out on someone like Calvin Ridley, obviously that he's one of Matt Ryan's favorite targets week in and week out. But then, you're looking on the flip side with Jameis being out and you're relying on Trevor. That puts a lot of pressure on Alvin Kamara. The Falcons can probably stack the box and maybe try to limit him a little bit there. I'm not opposed to what you're saying there with the Falcons and taking those points. I would take the Falcons with those points. Over under perspective, I think this game's going to be, kind of sloppy out of the gate. So I would take the under and I'd take Falcons with the 6.5.
Yeah, I kind of like you there. I don't know about the over and unders are so hard for me.
They are.
I always want to go over. just because of the way the league goes right now, with officials calling so much with PI and really encouraging the scoring. So unders are hard for me to take. But yeah, I'm with you. Atlanta 6.5 to me is one of my locks this week. I feel really good about them doing that. I may even just pay for the half a point just to cover the touchdown there. But
I
I
look for Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts can have a standout game this week for sure, especially with Calvin Ridley being out.
Should we lock him in as our second player here in my draft?
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I definitely
he's pretty high up there as far as salary goes. When you're looking at DraftKings, he is the fourth most expensive tight end. Kelsey at $7K, Waller at $6,200, Andrews at $5,500. I'm sorry, third most expensive because Pitts is $5,900, $400 more than Mark Andrews. Who do you like more this week, Andrews or Pitts?
Andrews, he's always reliable for Lamar. I just think, and with the weak secondary, although I would say, if you wanted a sleeper tight end, this bashing my guys, but how about a Tyler Conklin, right? The Ravens have actually allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends this season, averaging nearly 20 points per game.
All right. There you go. All right. So the next game up is going to be the Pats and the Panthers. Pats minus 3.5 after taking down Herbert's Chargers last week. Over and under is real low, 41.5 points. What do you think? 41.5 over under, minus 3.5 for the Patriots.
I've got the Patriots in this. I know CMC's coming back, but what is he going to look like? How is that hamstring going to hold up? Is he going to be on a limited snap count? You have to imagine he is going to be. Sam Darnold is super inconsistent this year. One of his lead targets, like a Robbie Anderson, just hasn't done a ton to prove himself. So I think the Patriots are going to roll in this one. So I would take the Patriots, even with those three, giving up the 3 points all day long. Over under, again, this is like a crapshoot to me. I don't see the Panthers putting up a ton of points. So am I confident that the Patriots can put up 20 plus? It wouldn't surprise me. So I'll go Patriots, and then I'll take the over just for fun.
Yeah, I mean, Patriots scare me. I think at any time, they're really only one game behind the lead in the AFC East. We don't talk about it. They're 4-4. They're not having a bad season. They've played some tough opponents. I'm going to go Patriots minus 3.5 again. If I have to pick one here, I'm going to take the under. But I don't feel confident in it. There's only one over under I feel confident in this week, and that's going to be the Packers game. But
I don't feel confident in a lot of them. They're just all, it's such a crapshoot. Like you said, with the way they call pass interference nowadays and things like that, it's just, you never know.
Yep, I'm with you. So Houston, Miami is the next one up. Houston only getting 5.5 points against Miami, over under at 46 points. I'm going to let you start off this one as well.
Well, with the news now that Tua is inactive for this game, apparently broken finger. So I think that evens the playing field a little bit. This would be, if I had to pick just an upset alert, I would throw this as the upset alert, and I'd throw down the Texans to take this one. So I'm going to list that as my upset alert, Texans over Dolphins. Even though they're both 1-7, it's hard to say it's an upset, but
that's interesting because I feel really good about the Dolphins minus 5.5 here. So that's the first one you and I really disagree on. It sounds like that's your upset special, Houston. Everything I hear, they just saying that Houston is really trying to honestly just tank. They don't want to win. The reason they backdoor covered last week is because they're trying to not be completely disrespected. They knew the game was out of reach, so they kind of let them. And again, of course, the subs were in and everything like that. But I feel like they are just out there to lose the game, get the first pick next year.
Yeah, I hate it if that's the case. You do still have professional athletes on the field there that are getting paid money, and you've got fans in the seats that have paid their hard-earned dollar for tickets to watch them put out at least their best effort. It's not what they want it to be, but yeah, I'm still going to ride with it. I'll take the Texans over the Dolphins because I have to pick an upset.
All right. Hold 1 second here. My family's messaging me. We do a family league every week. Been on them all day about doing it. And now like, come on, we're all in here. We got to do this. I'm like, can't do it now. It's as much as I wanted to show you guys. If you've never tried the Drafters app, it's really cool. It allows you to do whatever size league you want. And instead of salary, you do live drafts every week. So it's very similar to daily fantasy in the fact that you get to start a new team every week, but you get to draft your team as opposed to a salary. It's called Drafters. Really cool app. Check it out if you've never used it.
That's pretty cool.
Next game up on here is going to be the Cleveland-Cincinnati game, which I think is one of the most exciting games of the week. A lot going on there. What's your take on the whole Odell situation? He clears waivers at 4 o'clock goes to waivers at 4 o'clock on Monday. You want to give any take on that?
Well, so it's going to take a special team, right? I mean, obviously, Odell's got one of those personalities. You'd liken him to an Antonio Brown, even a Le'Veon Bell, where he needs to go into a team with strong veteran leadership presence already and a coach that's a no-nonsense, no bullshit kind of coach. So you look at what Antonio Brown did as soon as he went down, Arians was able to kind of right that ship. Obviously, Tom Brady has a huge influence on that. So you need that leadership there. I mean, it just wasn't a good match. Whenever you have players and families becoming outspoken and starting bashing people. I even saw Stephen A. Smith, Steve Smith Sr., excuse me, Stephen A. Steve Smith Sr. came out and he was mentioning Odell and just said, basically, Baker, you stink. That's why he doesn't want to play with you. You're a mediocre quarterback, right? So now you've got the media kind of whipping up this frenzy as well. I mean, I just think it's, probably the best decision for them to make a clean break. Where he lands is going to be a whole other question. I could see somewhere like the Raiders just because – they're one of those teams where either you have a really disciplined team or you have a team with a bunch of whack jobs. So throw him on a team with a bunch of whack jobs where they have an opening with the rug situation there and see what he does.
I mean, we saw it before when Beckham was out, for an extended period of time last year. They played better without him. I just don't know who's going to want. I mean, I know you want talent, but the guy hasn't been I think we just put so much more of this greatness on Odell because of that historic catch. And he had a decent season after that, but he's not ever been consistent and he's been plagued with injuries lately. Do you even think he gets picked? The good thing for him is they did renegotiate his contract so he could get off of waivers easier. But I just don't know right now, looking at that waiver list, if there's anyone in contention that wants to add him to the mix right now.
No, not in the top 10 anyway. I mean, people have jokingly thrown around he's going to end up on the Rams. He's going to end up on the Bucks. I don't think he helps either of those teams. So I don't see him going there. He's not going to go somewhere where he's going to be more of a headache than a help. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how it plays out. But this game itself is going to be good. Obviously, my eyes are on it. As much as I would like to pull for the Browns in this one, thinking that they can make an upset happen here, I think the Bengals are going to come out on top. I think, Burrow has been playing well with Jamar Chase. So, the Browns, who knows what their mental headspace is. I'll take the Bengals giving up the 2 points.
All right. Bengals giving up the 2. I feel good about that too. I just think that they're kind of in a transitionary stage. I'm not locking out the Browns for the year yet. I think they'll get things together. I do look for Jarvis Landry to have a pretty solid game stepping up. And I think Baker's almost going to go try to say F you Odell and just give Landry it's almost like, I don't want to call it, what are they, when you go back to play for your old team, there's
the revenge games.
Revenge games. Yeah. It's not a revenge game, but it's almost like a stick it to Odell game. And I feel like he's really, really going to, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Landry come out with this insane 100-yard, 2-touchdown game. Which he hasn't had all year, just to kind of stick it to Odell. I mean, I'm not saying Baker's not mature enough to kind of just look past that. So we know how Baker is. So I'm with you though, but I think the over is going to get covered in that 47.5. I think it's going to be kind of a little bit of a shootout there, but I will take Cincinnati -2 to win that game. Denver and Dallas up next. Dak finally back. I have so much of him in fantasy. I like watching Dak this year. I'm glad he's back. It's 10 points, Dallas -10.
Still taking Dallas in this game. I think they just have too much offensively. When you've got, wide receiving core like they do, CeeDee Lamb playing at an extremely high rate, Dak coming back probably is going to come out and play really, really well. Ezekiel Elliott's been pretty consistent this year compared to last year. And the Broncos, I just think, have this, they don't know what their identity is and who they want to be. I don't have confidence in Teddy Two Gloves. I just don't think he's the fit there. So I think at the end of the season, they're going to have to reevaluate their quarterback room and see what opportunities lie for them. So I'm taking Cowboys -10 in this one.
Yeah, I'll go with you there because I just think, like you said, Denver's all over the place. Dak's excited to be back as long as he stays healthy throughout the game. The over-under is 49.5. I'm going under on that. But I am about Dak being back. I think they cover the -10. Do we see Drew Lock this year at all? I mean, we said we were going to talk a little bit about cards. Is there a buy time here with the market down a little bit? Is there a buy time here for Drew Lock? I think they're still planning on having him moving forward in the next year.
I don't know. I don't. It may be a little early to put Drew Lock in the Josh Rosen category, but I could see that being a potential. I don't know that he's going to be. Listen, if they thought he was going to be the answer at this point, I mean, this is one of those seasons where you would give the guy a chance, give him the reins, let him see what he can do. They've never really trusted him there as much as Elway wants to come out and say that they back him and support him. It just doesn't seem like they've ever trusted him, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a move for a quarterback after this season. So I don't think Drew's the answer there. I mean, I think if you're looking for potential, card stock. Javonte Williams is one of those individuals, and we know that running backs never carry a ton of value, but he's played really, really consistent as a rookie, and I think he's going to be the answer in that backfield, especially with Melvin Gordon getting older. I think the times, instead of being split, it's going to start to lean towards Williams' way, and he's going to be the bell cow there for a while.
All right. I like it. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't even looked at his prices, and we can kind of dive into the weekly show here because we want to kind of fly through these games a little bit. We don't want to take up a lot of your time. Just wanted to go through these games. So we're going to move into the 4:00 games. A game I'm excited to watch. It's a 1-point spread. Chargers -1 over the Eagles with an over/under at 49.5. What do you feel here?
I think Herbert gets a bounce back here. I think him and Williams get back on page. Obviously, he's got additional targets there. I think Eckler in the backfield is a stout running back. The Eagles, to me, they have not been able to form their identity on the ground. And Jalen Hurts is really like their primary back. And so a lot of people kind of compare that, and they'll say, okay, well, Ravens, you've got Lamar Jackson. And to me, it's completely different. Lamar Jackson isn't relied on to be the primary back. This year is an anomaly because of the injuries. But when you look at the years when they've led the rushing title, it's been, a 3-4-headed monster. And for some reason in Philly, they're just not confident in their backfield. So they're putting too much pressure on Jalen Hurts. I just don't think he gets it done. I'm taking the Chargers in this one.
I'm with you there. At one point, I mean, I know the Philly had a good game against the Lions last week. I think that's kind of I can't really think you can put too much stock into that. But, it does give you a little bit of pause to say, hey, are they getting it together? It was the first week they didn't have like Miles Sanders. They know they're going with Gainwell and their other guys back there. But I'm still going Chargers -1. I think Chargers, this is a get-right game for them. They kind of addressed, I listened to on a podcast today a little bit about how they had the lowest third down conversions with yards in the air. It was a weird stat, and they addressed it last week, and they said it really switched it up for them. Who did the Chargers have last week?
Who did they lose to last week? Yeah, I think that was a 2-interception game too. It was the Patriots, 27-24.
Yeah. They said they addressed it, though. It was surprising how much they changed it. I think that was just one of those games of two young quarterbacks. It was a battle, and I think, Belichick came out ready to play that one. But I think Chargers get right here against the Eagles this week. Arizona, San Francisco. Kyler, have we heard about Kyler yet?
That I haven't seen, and that's going to be the question mark for me. It's Kyler playing, and then we know D-Hop was questionable as well. So you start taking two of their prime pieces out of the equation. I think the dynamic shifts there. We're talking division game. That always heats up. Don't let the 3-4 record fool you. I'm actually going to take the 49ers in this one. Granted, I don't know about Kyler, but even with Kyler, I'm just going to go out on a limb. George Kittle comes back. He's the catalyst for that team that Garoppolo can rely on. So I look for Debo to continue, what he's been doing. He's been having a stellar second year, just proving, why they put so much invested in him as a rookie. And so I'm going 49ers over the Cardinals in this one. Maybe that's my upset. I've just changed my upset for the week.
Yeah. It's interesting. Although
it's not an upset because the 49ers are giving up.
No, I was just going to say the line's actually starting to shift more towards the Niners. It was at 3.5. The line shifted to 4. Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins will not be decided until warmups. Generally, though, if you start to see the line move, someone knows a little something. Vegas knows something before anyone else does.
Well, and he hasn't practiced all week. When have you seen a quarterback literally not practice all week and then play?
I think they like to keep it hush-hush if they're able to. I mean, I'm sure they want him to, but chances are he'll be active in the event of emergency, but I don't see them starting him. Minus 3.5 is shifting to -4. You might want to grab that line now because I think if Hopkins and isn't Edmonds dealing with an injury as well?
Yeah, he's got a lingering injury. I think he's suiting up, but I think he's got some lingering injury issues.
And my understanding is there's some coaches out for Arizona. I mean, it seems like a recipe for disaster. This is kind of a repeat story of last year where they started out strong and then they started to taper off. I would say if you can grab that line at -3.5 or even -4 now, it might be the time to grab it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that line go all the way to like 5.5 before game time, especially if Kyler and Hopkins. Who's the backup quarterback out there in Arizona?
That's a great question. I have no idea. Should know.
Well, we'll go on to the next game while I look that up. The game I'm super pumped this week. Wish it was going to be the game I thought it would be, but we have the Packers versus the Chiefs. What do you think here? Can the Packers upset the Chiefs without Aaron Rodgers?
No, and I mean, listen, Jordan Love, if you're going to come into a situation, this may be about as good as you can expect because as poorly as the Kansas City Chiefs defense is playing. But Patrick Mahomes, I mean, listen, he's hurt enough. I think this is another one of those get right games. I think he comes out on fire. I think you can expect Travis Kelce to have a really big game in this one. So, I mean, I think they're just going to pour it on. I see the Chiefs winning this one easy, even and giving up the 7.
All right. Well, I picked Green Bay as an upset just because I like the money line, and I just know that teams that go against a new quarterback they don't have a lot of film on. Sometimes that can be a hard thing to. I don't think they have a ton of film on Love. He hasn't played a ton. Plus, the Kansas City's defense has been really bad. They've not done much to improve it. I think the Green Bay defense is going to come out with a fire lit under them because of missing their quarterback. I just think it's going to be. I like. This is one of the games I feel good about. I'm actually putting money on this one. I'm going to take the Green Bay +7 and the under on this.
Nice.
I did put some money on Green Bay straight up. I feel much better, obviously, about the 7. So I'm going to take Green Bay +7 and the under on that game.
Yeah, if we want to run real back to the Arizona game here, Colt McCoy is the backup quarterback in Arizona. Put San Francisco all day.
Yeah, I said bet that line now. I'm going to probably throw a little bit on that if you can still snag it because it doesn't sound like he's playing. The night game tonight is going to be a good one. Again, another star player out. Green Bay missing Rodgers and Tennessee missing Derrick Henry. I wonder what the line would be if they had him. Right now, it's Tennessee +7.5, but the over-under still at 52.5 points. So they're expecting some scoring to go on there. What's your take?
There's going to be scoring, and it's going to be the LA Rams scoring at will on Tennessee, in my opinion. The Rams this year, I mean, they look like the team to beat. They've got it really all together. That defense got even more stout with the addition of Von Miller. Their front is going to be imposing, so there's no way that old man Peterson's going to be able to come in and try to replicate.
Jeremy McNichols, you don't like McNichols? He can plug in just fine.
Yeah, not against that front. There's no way when you put an Aaron Donald and a Von Miller on the same line, it's just going to be too much for him. The air attack of LA is just through the roof. I would take the Rams in this one to pretty easily cover that 7.
All right. And then our final game of the week is, and we're going to let you go here in a minute. We'll do this real quick. I think it could be a good game. Bears and Steelers. Bears are +6.5 this should be exciting. Over and under of 39. It's the lowest over under of the week at 39 points.
And I can see that this is going to be a defensive battle. The Steelers, that's one thing that they'll always bring to the table is a pretty stout defense. And Justin Fields and the Bears have, splashed at times, but haven't proved to be consistent. You look on the other side of the ball. I mean, I think Ben's realizing, game by game that it's just time for him to give it up. He looks like he struggles to throw the ball 20 yards at times. It's just really inconsistent, missing open receivers at times, and they've been banged up. I think Najee Harris is going to have a good game on the ground here and probably put up some yards. But what that does is also eats the clock so that you don't have opportunities to score at will. So, over under, I mean, it wouldn't be surprised if the under came in here. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I think, they're just going to rally a little bit and try to, position themselves to be a contender in the AFC North by the end of the year. I think where they're going to run in the buzzsaw is when they start playing a few more of these divisional games and have to meet Cincinnati twice and have to meet Baltimore twice. That's when they'll start to nosedive a little bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting. As bad as Ben looks, they have a lot of hope there. They have Najee, they have TJ Watt, they have Claypool, they have Freiermuth. They have a lot of cool pieces there in Pittsburgh. But when we went to watch that Sunday night game against the Seahawks, the thing that we just kept saying to each other was, Ben looks really bad. Ben does not look good. He just didn't look like he should have even been out there. I don't know if it's just a courtesy in their opinion. Why not start to develop someone else, try to bring some – I know you can't really do it. Eli Manning, it happened with Eli Manning, and it was so devastating to watch his career end that way, and the way they kind of like took him out and gave Jones a chance. But it's at the point where if they want to have a chance this year, I don't see how Ben gives it. I don't know what their other quarterbacks look like, but I just can't imagine.
You want to know. So I don't think Dwayne Haskins is going to be the answer there, and I don't think Mason Crosby is going to be the answer there. So they really have to take a deep look inside at the end of the season and try to, it's going to be a rebuilding year for them from an offensive perspective and, some key positions for sure.
All right, well, Chris, we're not going to hold him up anymore. We wanted to jump in and just say happy Sunday to you guys. Enjoy the games. We're going to try to do this every week. I plan on it about 11:30. We'll try to come up with you some more info, some more lineup stuff. The DraftKings lobby thing I wanted to show you here, or my DraftKings Optimizer. I'm going to just share that with you quick, just so people can see what it looks like. I plug those two guys in. Share my screen right here. Where are we at? I think this is it. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I put in Bateman and Andrews as our guys this week. So I took two of Ravens guys in honor of Chris here this week. But here's who they told me to fill in: Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Bateman, Amari Cooper, and Higgins. You got Mark Andrews. I've been seeing Conklin as an encouragement all week. And then Carolina's defense against New England. You can get them all $100 shy. And this is a GPP lineup. I set it to do a GPP. If I turn that off, it will change those guys a little bit, but not much. So actually it didn't really change at all, even without the GPP off, which is weird. But I guess either way, those are some guys to look out for if you're putting a lineup together. These are who they recommend: Josh Allen, Cook, Eckler, Bateman, Cooper, Higgins, Andrews, Conklin, and the Carolina D. A lot of times what I've noticed with this is they don't like you to spend a lot of money on defense at all. I think they just kind of like to find the lowest one that gives you value. So something to look at. If you ever want to ask me, plug some guys in, hit me up. I'll try to do that if I have time, and I can plug in and try to help you make a lineup if you'd like.
Nice. I can't disagree with that. That lineup actually looks pretty stout to me. I think Josh Allen's going to have a big game. So good for you guys. Pick up an easy W today against Jacksonville and move on to the next. But what we'll also do is, watching the games today, kind of doing some evaluations next week, or when we go live, we'll do a little bit of stock up, stock down from a card perspective on some of these players, just to see where the market is. It's so interesting to see because it is really fluctuating more than it ever has before for football, in my opinion. I mean, it's a week-to-week basis where you're seeing cards up and down. So it'd be interesting to see, who's the standouts this week. So let us know if you guys want to put something on any of the pages, just who you think are going to be some of those standout stars that we may have missed, and who could have a potential for a down week.
Did you see this comment? Ben is the only quarterback since week 5 without an INT. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's crazy. I mean, you have to be able to throw the ball more than 6 yards to throw an INT, but
that's why Mike has 3 wins this season.
Oh, you can't listen. You can't win every league.
Well, especially when you're in like 20 of them. I don't know how you even keep up with it. I have trouble keeping up with like 3.
Someone just messaged here: Ben Roethlisberger isn't that bad. It was just an offensive line not giving him enough time. And dude, listen, I was at the game. It's not that he didn't have time. He looked like when you ask your dad to go out and play backyard football, and you realize your dad's just kind of old now, and you don't want to admit it because you love your dad. You love when he throws the football to you, but you're just like, man, the poor guy just can't throw like he used to. So you just like start to run different routes to make him feel like he's still a good quarterback.
Listen, it's going to happen. Look, as much as I maybe have disdain for the Steelers, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm never going to take that away from him. He deserves it. But everybody's got a time, and his time has come. They just need to move on after the season.
I love Ben. It's no disrespect to Ben. He's just old. The difference between Ben and Brady is Brady spends millions and millions of dollars into his body, into his training, into his diet, into his skills. And Ben just kind of like, let's eat some cheeseburgers this offseason and we'll go throw the football when we're done. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's just not going to last as long as a guy that invests into himself as much as Brady has. That's just the straight up difference. Some guys age faster because of the way they take care of themselves. Ben's at that point. He's just not.
I would also like to see a statistic on the number of QB hits each of those quarterbacks have taken in their career, because you're not allowed to touch Brady, and Ben has taken some licks.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's the difference. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I watched an interview once, and Ben said that one time Terrell Suggs popped him. He said it's the hardest he's ever been hit in his career.
Who said that?
He said that about Terrell Suggs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I can't imagine some of that, because that guy's Ben.
He'll take a hit. He's not afraid to shy away.
He's a bruiser. He'll try to punish you just as much as you're trying to punish him. So
that's Pittsburgh. That's lunch pail, blue collar. Let's go to work.
I love it. I like teams like that.
Good stuff.
All right, guys. Well, we'll let you go. Chris, thanks for doing this with me today. It was a lot of fun. We'll get back with you with an episode this week, and also we will try to do this next Sunday as well.
I got to go get into my DraftKings myself and set my lineups. Go Ravens.
I'm itching, man. Good luck, everybody, today.
All right. See y'all.